It was early October, and I was hauling refrigeration units from Flagstaff, Arizona to Memphis, Tennessee, a route I'd run maybe a dozen times. Not a glamorous job, but it paid decent, especially if I agreed to do it solo and overnight. That's how I preferred it anyway. No chatter, no partner messing with the radio, just me and the hum of my Peterbilt 579 under an endless stretch of blacktop. Dispatch gave me a late start time, 6:30 p.m. I didn't think much of it at the time. The air in Flagstaff had that bite to it, high desert chill that creeps into your bones, but nothing a decent thermos of truck stop coffee couldn't cure. I remember watching the sun dip below the mesas as I pulled onto I-40 East. That's when the static started on the CB. Not a voice, not even real interference. Just an odd scratch like someone dragging metal across gravel. I muted it. At 7:02 p.m., I passed Holbrook and flicked on the high beams. The road was empty, aside from the occasional set of taillights far in the distance. With night setting in, I prepped for the long-haul seat, adjusted, music low, coffee beside me, eyes alert. That's when I saw him, standing just beyond the shoulder, maybe 30 miles outside Winslow. A man in a brown duster coat, tall, with long black hair that didn't quite match the rest of him. No car in sight, no flashlight, just standing dead still, watching the road. I slowed slightly as instinct kicked in, maybe he was in trouble. But the moment I passed, I glanced in my side mirror, and he was gone. Not walking, not crouching, just gone. No dust kicked up, no shadow, nothing. I chalked it up to highway mirage. Happens more than you'd think out there. Fatigue plays tricks. The highway's long and straight, especially across northern Arizona and New Mexico. I turned up. The radio tried to forget about it, but the CB started again. This time, it wasn't static. It was breathing. At first I thought it was a signal bleed. Some trucker with his mic keyed up too long, maybe snoring into it. But when I reached for the CB to switch channels, the sound cut off clean. Not faded, cut off, like someone had their finger on a kill switch. I stared at the radio for a second, then flipped over to channel 9, the emergency line, and waited. Nothing. Dead air. I went back to 19. After about 30 seconds, the breathing started again. Rhythmic, shallow, way too close to the mic. It wasn't normal background noise either. You could hear a slight whistle in the nose, like someone with a deviated septum. It was human, unmistakably human. Then a whisper, just one word, stop. I slammed the CB to mute again. Now I've been driving trucks for close to 2 decades. I've heard pranksters, ghost chasers, meth heads, pretending to be cops. Even one guy who claimed he could see a UFO over Amarillo. But this didn't feel like a joke. It felt personal, and I hadn't told anyone I was heading out yet. No. One but dispatch. I was now pushing past Gallup, New Mexico. Midnight was coming on fast, and the temperature had dropped. I lit a cigarette, bad habit I'd been trying to shake, and cracked the window. Cold air rushed in. Felt good. That's when I saw the shape again, up ahead. Middle of the road, no. Mistaking it this time. A tall man, same duster coat, arms limp at his sides, head slightly tilted, just standing there, unmoving, like he was daring me to swerve. I leaned on the horn, didn't budge, so I jerked the wheel a few degrees to the left and flew past him, tires skimming the center line. I checked the mirrors again, nothing. No figure, no body. Just black road and miles of headlights disappearing into the dark. I kept one hand on the wheel, and the other near the CB switch. My breathing was matching the rhythm I'd heard earlier, fast and shallow. Then the voice came again. Same whisper. This time, it said, "You saw me, again." About 30 miles east of Gallup, I pulled off the interstate. I didn't plan to stop, but I needed a moment. The breathing, the voice, that figure on the road. I was getting rattled. That doesn't happen to me often. There was this old roadside diner up ahead, Earl's Pit Stop and Grill, flickering neon sign, red letters missing the R and half the G. I'd never seen it before on this route, and that was odd. I'd run this corridor dozens of times. It looked like one of those 1950s prefab diners, all chrome and glass, the kind you'd expect to see in a Stephen King paperback. I pulled my rig into the gravel lot, engine idling. There was only one other vehicle, a long-nosed Kenworth. No. Trailer, faded green paint with rust around the wheel wells. The lights were off inside. I stepped out, boots crunching the gravel, and walked to the diner. The bell above the door gave a soft chime as I entered. Inside was dimly lit, almost too quiet. The kind of silence where you can hear the hum of the refrigerator behind the counter and the buzz of a single, dying fluorescent bulb overhead. At the bar sat an old trucker. Wide shoulders, gray beard, yellowed ball cap pulled low. He had a cup of coffee in front of him and hadn't touched it. He didn't look up when he spoke. "You saw him, didn't you?" I froze. He looked at me, finally slow, tired eyes that seemed like they hadn't slept in years. There was something haunted behind them. Not crazy, just done. Tall fella, brown coat, been on this road forever. Used to be a man, not anymore. I tried to ask what he meant, but he held up a hand. "You listen, son. You see him twice. You're marked. You see him 3 times, and he gets in." "Gets in where?" I asked. He didn't answer, just nodded to the booth behind me. I turned around slowly and froze. Sitting in the booth was the man in the duster coat. Same long black hair, same limp arms, head down, like he was asleep, but his boots were caked in red clay, and the table around him was wet, not spilled water, darker. I blinked, just for a second, and he was gone. The booth was empty. When I turned back, the old trucker was gone too. His coffee still steamed. I backed out of that place fast, nearly slipping on the tile. Got back in my rig and fired it up. But the diner, as I pulled out and looked in the mirrors, it was gone. Nothing but scrubland and dust. No parking lot, no building, just darkness and empty space. By the time I was back on I-40, the air felt heavier, like I was driving through thick molasses instead of clean desert wind. The dashboard clock read 1:17 a.m., and something about the time felt ... off. I swear it had said 1:12 for 10 minutes. Straight. I smacked the dash twice, like that'd do anything. Just outside of Albuquerque, the CB crackled back to life on its own. Not breathing this time. No voices. It was a weather alert, mechanical, flat tone, the kind that always starts with the emergency broadcast system. Severe low visibility advisory in effect for Route I-40 between mile markers 134 and 151. Do not stop. Do not pick up hitchhikers. Keep windows closed. My fingers went cold around the steering wheel. That wasn't normal. Not just the advisory. Those mile markers were coming up fast. But more than that, weather alerts don't tell you not to pick up hitchhikers. That's not their job. The voice repeated the message twice, then went silent. No static. No sign-off. I slowed, just slightly, enough to stay alert, not enough to seem scared. But deep down, I was scared. Then I saw the fog. It wasn't natural. It didn't roll. It hung dense as smoke, stretching in a solid band across the road like a barrier. Headlights only punched a few feet into it before being swallowed whole. Every instinct told me to pull off and wait it out. But that voice, that message, echoed in my head. Do not stop. So I pressed on. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. My speed dropped to 35. I leaned forward in the seat, knuckles white, breath fogging the cab. Then the CB lit up again. This time, it wasn't a broadcast. It was a voice, raspy male, low, not whispering, more like talking through a throat that hadn't had water in days. "He's walking with you now. My mouth went dry. I turned to check the passenger seat. Empty. Then the sleeper bunk behind me. Empty. And yet, it wasn't. The air felt colder back there, like something had climbed into the cab without opening the doors. I didn't see anything, but, in the rearview mirror, briefly there was a shape, just behind the curtain of the sleeper, a head, tilted, watching me. I swerved, only a little, just enough to jolt the rig, heart hammering. I looked again, it was gone, but the smell stayed. Wet earth, rust, clay, something that didn't belong inside a truck. I gripped the wheel tighter, eyes scanning for the next mile marker. 148, just a few more to go. Mile marker 149. I'd never been so hyper-aware of passing numbers in my life. Each reflective post felt like a countdown, or maybe a warning. The fog began to thin. Not completely, but just enough that I could see maybe 2 car lengths ahead. I exhaled a little, loosening the grip I had on the steering wheel. Then came the voice, clearer than before, stronger, through the CB. Just like any normal trucker. Breaker 19. You got your ears on, buddy. Standard CB greeting, friendly, almost comforting. I keyed the mic. Yeah, go ahead. You just rollin' out of Flagstaff? He asked. I blinked. Yeah, hauling That made the hairs rise on my arms. My load was refrigerated. Yeah, but that's not something someone just guesses. Not unless they saw my trailer up close, or they knew me. Who is this? I asked, more sharply. The voice chuckled. Hell, man, it's you. Silence. I froze. I didn't understand. What? It's you. You're talking to yourself. You always do before it happens. The CB cut off. I stared at it. Disbelief thickened my chest. Then it keyed up again. Same voice. Same my voice. Do you remember Albuquerque in '09? My blood went cold. I did remember Albuquerque in '09. I hit a patch of black ice outside of Sandia, jackknifed into a ditch, could have died. Swore I saw a man standing in the snow just before I lost control. But no one found any footprints. I hadn't told anyone about that. You saw him then too, the voice said. You forgot. Most do, until the 3rd time. I slammed the CB into the off position, ripped the cord out just to be safe. Silence returned like a wet blanket. Then, from the sleeper bunk, a soft thump, like a boot stepping onto carpet. My eyes darted to the rearview mirror again. The curtain moved. Not much, just a twitch, like a breeze had passed through. But the windows were sealed tight. I didn't speak, didn't breathe. I just kept driving. Mile marker 151 came and went. The fog lifted completely, but I didn't relax, because something had changed. The air in the cab was different, not just colder, heavier, like I wasn't the only one breathing in it anymore. About 10 miles past the fog, I spotted the flashing lights of a way station, blue and white strobes, the kind that look almost friendly until you're the only rig on the road. Normally, I'd just roll through, hit the scales, maybe flash my logbook if asked. But this station, I didn't recognize it, and I know this stretch. This wasn't on the map. Hell, there shouldn't have been anything out here for another 40 miles. But there it was, glowing green exit sign and all. New Caldera inspection, required. My gut said don't pull off, but my mind said you've been through enough tonight. Play it by the book, so I exited. The ramp curved down into a dirt lot lined with orange pylons, not paved, just packed gravel and broken asphalt. One squat brick building sat in the middle, lit by buzzing sodium lights. The sign above the door flickered but read clearly. Check-in window. I parked and killed the engine, left the cab light on, took a flashlight with me. The air was too quiet. No bugs, no wind, just the dull whir of my reefer unit cooling in the back. Inside the building, there was a single man behind a glass panel, thin, mid-60s, silver glasses. He didn't look up when I approached. I slid my logbook under the glass. Without touching it, he said, "Your name's Eric McEwen, out of Prescott. Solo driver, reefer freight, Flagstaff to Memphis. Left at 6:37 p.m. My blood stopped. How? He finally looked up. His eyes were clouded over, like old marble. No pupils. Just a fogged-over spheres, swimming in yellowed whites. "He's riding with you now," the man said softly. "Don't let him talk to you after dark." I took a step back. He placed a piece of paper on the counter. I leaned in slowly to read it. It was a photo, black and white. Faded. It showed me standing outside my rig, from behind. The timestamp said 1:17 a.m., the exact moment I was in the fog. But the worst part, there was a figure standing next to me, tall, wearing a duster coat, hand on my shoulder. I looked up from the photo, but the man was gone. So was the desk, the glass, the building. I was standing in the middle of an empty lot. No way station, no lights. Just the dirt crunching under my boots and the sound of my reefer humming in the dark. I ran to the truck. The cab lights were off. I hadn't turned them off. I climbed in, slammed the door, locked it, started the engine, and floored it back onto I-40. But as I merged onto the highway again, I glanced in the side mirror. For a second, just 1 second, I saw someone else's breath on the inside of the glass. Texas, flat, wide, endless, somewhere between Amarillo and Shamrock. I rolled past the state line around 3:45 a.m. I hadn't slept. Couldn't. Every time I blinked too long, I saw flashes of the diner, the man in the booth. That black shape in my mirror. Still no traffic. Just the hum of my engine, and the road stretching on like some kind of hypnotic loop. That's when I saw the lights, not from ahead, but behind. 3 sets, semis, close together, running tight. I slowed a little, let them catch up. They passed me slowly, one by one, big rigs, all older models. First was an old Freightliner with black mud flaps that read "Stay Awake." Second was a cabover Peterbilt painted bright yellow, no company name. Third was a black Kenworth with no trailer, just the cab, dirty and dented, like it had been in a dozen wrecks but never stopped running. As the third passed, his CB lit up. "You've seen him yet?" It was a woman's voice, deep, calm, tired. I hesitated, then reached for my backup CB. Not the built-in rig one I'd ripped earlier, but a handheld Midland I kept for emergencies. "You mean the guy in the coat?" I said. Long pause. Then all 3 rigs hit their brakes at once. All 3 brake lights flared red in perfect unison. I slammed mine too. We all coasted to a slow stop on the shoulder. Their lights stayed on. No one got out. Then the woman's voice came back. "How many times?" "I've seen him twice," I said. Another pause. Then she said, "Then you passed the 2nd mile. What are you talking about?" She didn't answer right away. Then she said something that chilled me more than anything else so far. "There's no 3rd mile. If you see it, you're already dead." I looked out at the road ahead. The shoulder sign read, mile 261, but the next marker I passed said, mile 260 to 1/2. No such thing, no half-mile posts out here. Then the voice again, this time not from the CB, but from inside my cab. A whisper right behind my seat. "You missed your exit." I jerked the wheel so hard, the truck nearly tilted, veered back onto the road. But when I looked in the mirrors, the 3 rigs were gone. No taillights, no headlights, no tire marks, like they were never there. Just me, and the black road, and a sign up ahead that simply read, mile 263, but the numbers were backward. I don't remember falling asleep. That's the worst part. One moment, I was staring at the warped mile 263 sign, gripping the wheel like it was the only thing keeping me tethered to the world. The next, I was waking up, hands still on, the wheel engine humming, rig still moving, but everything was different. The sky was gray. Not dawn, not dusk, just a dead gray, like the sun had burned out behind the clouds, and no one bothered to tell the earth. No cars, no signs, no lines on the road. I slammed the brakes, and the truck screeched to a stop on cracked asphalt that looked wrong, like the road hadn't been paved in 30 years. Grass grew through the seams. Dirt collected in strips where lane markers should have been. My GPS showed nothing but blank screen. My phone had no bars. I was alone until I saw the sign, a battered green highway exit marker, just ahead, held up by one rusted post that looked like it would fall in a stiff wind. Exit. Oh, number. A return, that's all it said. No town name, no route. Number. Just those words burned into the metal like they'd been branded instead of printed. My mouth went dry. Then, something worse. A rhythmic sound. Soft, but steady, like footsteps. Gravel shifting, getting closer. I looked in the side mirror, and I saw myself standing outside the passenger side door. Not a reflection, not a trick of the eye. Me, same jacket, same hat, same look of confused terror. Just staring, head tilted, exactly like the man in the duster. Like he was learning how to be me. I reached for the ignition, but the truck was still running. Then the CB flared back to life. "We told you not to stop." It was the woman's voice again. "What is this place?" I shouted into the mic. Her answer was almost gentle. "This is the part of the road where your story ends, unless you leave him behind." Then came the passenger door handle, slowly pulling up, click, dot. I didn't wait. I gunned it. The tires screamed on the broken pavement as I tore past the exit 0 sign and barreled back toward the highway. In the mirror, I saw myself still standing, in the same spot, hand raised like he was trying to hitch a ride. But the road was changing again. I looked ahead. The sky darkened. The lines reappeared. The GPS flickered back to life. I was moving again, but I wasn't sure anymore if I was still me. By the time I crossed into Oklahoma, I was running on fumes, both in the tank and in my head. My hands trembled. My mouth was dry. I hadn't eaten since Arizona, and I couldn't even remember what day it was anymore. But the road had returned to normal. Lines on the pavement, GPS stable, a town ahead, Weatherford, a name I recognized. I pulled into a Love's Travel stop just off I-40. Bright lights, other rigs, the faint smell of burnt coffee and diesel in the air. Familiar, human, safe. If only for a moment. I killed the engine, climbed down, and went inside. Everything felt normal until I hit the coffee counter. An older man stood there, pouring sugar into a styrofoam cup. Tall, lean, black leather jacket, mirrored shades, even though it was night. As I reached for the creamer, he turned to me and smiled. "How's your dad doing these days? Still working that sawmill in Prescott?" I froze. My hand didn't reach the creamer. My stomach dropped. "I'm sorry. Do I know you?" He took a sip of his coffee, unbothered. "You don't remember, huh? Guess that makes sense. You were just a kid the first time. Maybe 7, maybe 8. That old road, between Skull Valley and Wilhoit. You saw him even then, man in the ditch, watching." My mouth moved, but no words came out, because I did remember that. Only once, and barely. My dad, pulling over to check a flat, me waiting in the cab. I'd looked out the window and seen a man standing in the ditch, half covered in shadow. Thought it was my imagination. Told myself that for years. "You said nothing for 30 years, the man added. "Now he's catching up." "Who the hell are you?" He smiled wider, too wide, like his face was trying to learn the shape of the gesture, but hadn't quite gotten it right. "I'm someone who didn't make it to the 3rd sighting." He pulled something from his pocket, a locket, opened it. Inside was a photo of me, asleep in my sleeper bunk. The timestamp read, 4:33 a.m. "That's tonight," he whispered. "About an hour from now. What do you want?" He dropped. the locket in my hand. To remind you, you don't get to leave the road. Not really. He's in your mirrors now. I looked down at the locket again. When I looked up, the man was gone. No footsteps, no door chime, just gone. I ran outside, looked around. No sign of him. Back in the truck, I slammed the door, locked it, and turned every light on. The locket was still in my palm, still warm, and now, my own reflection in the windshield didn't match my movement for a full second. I left the Loves just before 4 a.m. The wind had picked up, dust was rolling off the plains, and the radio static had returned, even though the CB was off, unplugged, and buried under my seat. The locket sat on the dashboard. I tried to toss it out the window twice. Each time, I glanced back, and there it was again, resting in the same spot, open. My sleeping face still frozen inside it. Dispatch pinged my tablet with a reroute. Construction delay ahead. Detour off I-40 onto Route 417 South, cutting through some unincorporated county I'd never heard of. Normally, I don't take those roads. Too narrow, too remote. But at this point, I wanted out. Out of the dark, out of the game, so I followed it. 417 was barely a road. No lights, no signs. Just a narrow two-lane scar winding through open land. No fences, no trees, just flat scrub in every direction. I watched the odometer tick up slowly. 10 miles in, the same billboard appeared 3 times. The third time, he rides in front. The first time, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe old boards from a weird religious group. The second time, I noticed the bullet holes. The third time, it had my license plate number printed on it. I hit the brakes, scanned the fields. No other vehicles. Nothing but an old cattle gate, off to the left, chained shut, and rusted clean through. I radioed dispatch. Nothing. Phone said no service. The fourth time I passed that billboard, I knew what was happening. The road was looping, same mile markers. Same roadkill, a flattened raccoon, guts spilled like red lace. Same twisted windmill in the distance. I passed it over and over again. 5 times, 6, 7. I screamed at the windshield, slammed the dash, turned the wheel slightly off the road, trying to break the cycle. But the moment the rig's tires hit gravel, I was right back on the pavement. It was like time folded in on itself. Then came the voice again, not from the CB, not from the speakers, from the engine. Low, rumbling. He's behind you. I looked in the mirror. Nothing. Then my phone screen lit up on its own. Black background. White letters. One message. Mile 3. That's when I understood. This was the third time. And now, he wasn't riding behind me anymore. He was in front. I should have turned around. I should have stopped the engine and run into the field screaming. But I didn't. Because there's a strange thing that happens when the world goes off the rails. You keep driving. Like momentum itself will protect you. Like if you just stay moving, nothing can touch you. But that's not true. At 4:42 a.m., my headlights picked up something impossible on the road ahead. Taillights, my own taillights. Not just the same model, the same truck, same license plate, same scratch on the right fender. My trailer, my dot stickers, even the bumper sticker that says, "Real truckers don't sleep, we shut down time." And it was moving slowly, like whoever or whatever was driving it knew I was watching. I killed my lights, coasted, didn't want to draw attention, but as I got closer, I saw the brake lights pulse, once, twice, then a full stop. I rolled up behind it, shaking, palms wet, brain screaming to leave now, but I didn't. I got out. I took 3 steps toward the other rig. The air was thick, like I was wading through syrup. Every movement felt delayed, like my body was resisting itself. Then the cab door of the other truck creaked open. No one got out, but the dome light came on inside, revealing a shape in the driver's seat, sitting perfectly still, wearing my jacket. Same ball cap, Same scars on the hands, BOD, but the face was ... off. Not wrong in a monstrous way. Wrong in a copy-paste you many times kind of way. Like a glitch. Mouth just slightly too wide. Eyes too far apart. Skin too smooth, like plastic trying to pretend it was human. And it was smiling. Not a grin. Not joy. Just a slow, deliberate mockery of emotion. Then it moved. One finger lifted from the steering wheel. It pointed forward. Then to the passenger seat beside it, inviting me to get in. I stepped back, but the truck's engine flared to life. Headlights snapped on, blinding white. I shielded my eyes just in time to see the front grille rushing at me. I dove to the side, but when I looked up ... there was nothing there. Just gravel, dirt, silence. My own rig sat 50 feet away, exactly where I'd parked it. Still idling, I ran to it, flung open the door, climbed in, and threw it into gear. But as I drove away, I noticed the locket was open again, and now the photo inside wasn't me sleeping. It was me standing outside my truck, looking in, and behind me, the man in the duster, one hand on my shoulder. The skyline of Memphis rose like a ghost out of the morning haze. I was almost there. After everything, the fog, the diner, the looping road, the man in the other truck, it was almost over. But just as I approached the final interchange, maybe 2 miles out from my drop site, the GPS rerouted again. Faster route available. Take exit 54, Riverview Access Road. Thing is, there is no exit 54 on that stretch of highway. I paused, hands gripping the wheel. The road split ahead. I could see the city right there. Buildings, shimmering in early light. Civilization, people. But the rig began to slow on its own. Cruise control disengaged. My foot pressed harder, but the pedal gave no response. And then I saw it. Exit 54. Plain as day. A green sign rising from the mist. Arrow pointing right. Riverview Access Road. Final mile. I didn't choose it. The truck did. The wheel turned on its own. Soft, deliberate, like guided by something behind my hands. I tried to fight it. I did fight it, but it was like wrestling with concrete. I took the exit. It led to a narrow road, barely wide enough for a single lane. No signs, no markings, just overgrown trees that leaned inward, like they didn't want to let me out. The sun disappeared. Not behind clouds, behind nothing. The sky just went dark again, like someone flipped a switch. That's when I saw the silhouette, standing in the road ahead. Duster coat, limp arms, head tilted. Only this time, he stepped forward and climbed into the cab. He didn't open the door. He didn't walk around. He was just there, sitting in the passenger seat, close now. Close enough that I could hear the fabric of his coat creak when he moved. He turned his head to look at me finally, and I saw the face. It was mine, but older, weathered, eyes dark, empty, like they'd stared into 1,000 long nights, and forgotten what daylight was. He leaned in and whispered, "One of us has to finish the drive." Then everything around me stopped. The trees, the road, the sound of the engine. The entire world seemed to lock in place like it was holding its breath. He held out a hand in it. My keys. I looked down. The ones in the ignition were gone. I looked back and he was still holding them out, waiting. Patient. No malice, no anger, just inevitability. And in that moment, I understood. I'd been driving on borrowed time since the first sighting. Every mile, just delaying the trade. I reached out and took the keys. He smiled, nodded once, and vanished. Suddenly, I was sitting alone again. Engine dead, sun rising over the tree line. Exit 54 was gone. No road behind me, just an unmarked path. Ahead, I turned the key. The truck rumbled to life, and I drove. Because that's what you do. Out here on the long haul. Somewhere behind me now. Someone else is waking up in my old cab. Wondering why the CB whispers when the sun goes down. Wondering why the mile markers don't line up, wondering when they'll see him for the third time.